Alright, it has been a long time, but MarcelloMania back. Had to get out here and talk about the college football playoff, how all that broke down, the matchups, our thoughts on obviously Florida State getting snubbed. And we talked a little bit of NFL, didn't waste too much time on the lowly Patriots, talk some Lions because they're doing so good. And my guest Anthony, Lions fan. So hope you enjoy. All right, it has been a little while. We're back making the show again, MarcelloMania, and of course, my fellow Paisan, Anthony DiCarlo on. Anthony, always great to talk to you. Just a little preview for what we're going to talk about. We're going to really hit on the college football playoff, and he's got his Michigan gear. If you can't see it already, it's all decked out. So he's going to give us some big blue insight. And then, of course, he's a Lions guy, so we'll talk that. We'll talk the Patriots. But Anthony, how you been, man?
Great, man. It's been a great year for Michigan. It's been a great year for the Detroit Lions. The Red Wings are in a great spot right now. Tigers and Pistons. We'll leave those for another time.
I think
But
the
right now,
Wings.
I'm proud to be a Michigan fan.
Yeah, I think the Wings have already beaten the Bruins like twice. I don't know. They've played a lot early in the season.
Hey, it's not the same Bruins as you guys had last year, so you might have to, come down to reality.
Yeah, they're outperformed early. We'll save that for another time. I mentioned we were talking about the college football playoff and how everything went down. I want to jump back to what you thought was going to happen before they released the brackets at noon on Sunday. With the way things played out Friday, Oregon losing to Washington, you knew one team was going to get knocked out. But then when Alabama beat Georgia, what were your thoughts at that point in time?
So that was, a big betting favorite was Alabama plus money. Everybody thought that, Georgia was going to kind of crumble and fold and show their real insecurities, which they did. It was a 27-24 ball game. Alabama definitely showed up and held the Bulldogs to where they needed to. I thought they made the big plays that they needed to win the game. It's the SEC. It's SEC football. It's what you're going to get every year in that game. Whether it's Florida or Georgia, Alabama, whether it's LSU, Alabama, whether it's whatever team you want to put in there, you're going to get that kind of grudge match. But ultimately, going into that game, I thought Georgia was going to win. Georgia was the two-time defending national champ, trying to do something that's never been done before, and I saw the Bulldogs the way they beat TCU after TCU beat Michigan. It's kind of like a ripple effect of they hadn't lost a game, and you just look at the scope of work that they've done this year, and that was kind of surprising to me that Alabama won, to be honest. I was hoping Georgia won because it was going to make our chances and our road maybe a little more smooth. I think at a number 2 seed, if we were to have faced somebody else, it might have been a little different. But again, this is all speculation. Everybody
Right.
has 17 different ways they could have looked at this thing.
Yeah. I will say I truthfully the SEC, I'll say they deserve a team in no matter what. So yeah, I thought Georgia was going to win, and that was going to take care of that, like you said. I'll be honest, when Alabama won, I was like, okay, Florida State's done, but I really thought they were going to put both Georgia and Bama in. You had to go Michigan at the one. Like that was, the only team that ran the table. Obviously Florida State, Washington did, but in a higher tier conference. And then you can't leave out Washington because they had 2 victories over Oregon. But on the same token, which is probably what we're going to get into, you really can't or shouldn't have left out Florida State. So, but I thought they were going to go Washington at the 4. They were going to do Georgia Bama at the 2-3 instead of that rematch. So I figured Bama was going to get in. It was interesting the way it played out. There was an argument for Texas. There's definitely an argument for Florida State. I was a little surprised that Georgia didn't get in. So, what were your thoughts on how it did end up shaking out?
So, kind of based on the body of work, you look at Washington's schedule, they beat a number 20 USC, 18th ranked Utah, 11th Oregon State, and like you said, the 2 wins over a ranked Oregon. Some people thought that Washington was going to jump Michigan in the college football playoff poll, where, Michigan's body of work, they beat a 10th ranked Penn State, 2nd ranked Iowa or Ohio State, and, beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship. A lot of people thought that Michigan maybe didn't have the strength of schedule that a Washington did. But that's where the college football playoff committee comes in and says, hey guys, let's take a break. Michigan obviously has the experience, they have the coaching. And the hard part is you look at a Texas, the Texas that kind of got in. I ultimately think if Oklahoma were to have made the Big 12 championship game, everything would have been way more interesting. Instead, you have Oklahoma State. It's kind of a more predictable matchup, a more predictable outcome. Texas obviously stomps them. Quinn Ewers looks like he's the Heisman candidate in the first half. And that's where we're at. And I honestly, all year I've been saying as a Michigan fan, I do not want to see Texas in the college football playoff. Alabama, I saw a stat the last time Michigan played a fifth ranked Alabama was when Tom Brady beat them in his senior year. So, statistically speaking, we kind of have their number.
Yeah.
But, that Texas team, now no Jonathan Brooks there, no running back, but their backup is, it's kind of like the depth that Michigan has,
Right.
where, they can travel as many guys as they can play. And so I think that can be a big problem when you're trying to play a team in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and I think the biggest gripe has got to go to Florida State, right? Because the Jordan Travis injury, and I will say I do kind of understand why the committee says, oh, they're a different team without him, but at the same time they won in the swamp. A rivalry game, you could have a 2-win team, against an eight-win team. Rivalry game is a different beast, especially on the road. So to go in there like that, and then to Louisville, I think was 11th or 14th. They were a top 15 team, and they got 2 big wins, and they were down to their third string quarterback. Rodemaker actually looked pretty good in that Florida game before he got popped. So you figure he would have been back had they been in the playoffs. And that defense, that running game, I mean, Coleman on the outside, like they were absolutely shit. So it is just tough because when they get left out, then and you've heard the argument, it's just, well, why do you schedule people non-conference wise? Because of the wins they had LSU convincingly. They beat the Dukes, North Carolinas, the Clemsons. Those teams that are, they're not the Ohio States, but that's 3 to 4 other top 25 teams consistently. Those are programs that have really elevated themselves, and you knew somebody was going to get left out. So if it wasn't Florida State, we're going to be talking about someone else. But what were your thoughts on them kind of getting left off?
It's tough because everybody's saying it's a discredit to the NCAA committee. What's it worth? Michigan, a conference champion, undefeated, might not have had the best strength of schedule. I mean, if you compare conferences, the Big Ten has been absolutely down. There's 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten. The rest is absolute garbage. And I'm happy to say that I'm not proud to be beating Big Ten teams every week. But the point being that the ACC is a pretty competitive conference. And like you said,
Right.
LSU, 5th ranked LSU week 1. Clemson, if they weren't having the year that they had, they'd be a much more credible victory. They got the overtime win there, beat 16th ranked Duke. Miami, if they hadn't lost to Georgia Tech the way they did, we might be talking about them a little differently too. And like you said, in the conference championship game, they held their opponent to 6 points. Granted, their offense might have stuttered a little bit. What's the old saying? Defense wins championships. And they have a really good defense. They have great skill players. I think, everybody wants to say the committee got it right. The committee got it right. This is the tough part about a 14 playoff. We can't make it 6. We can't make it 8. We can't make it right. We can never make it right. But if you want the 2 best games, if you want the 4 best teams, Florida State might not be able to compete with a Texas or with an Alabama or with a Washington or with a Michigan. And that's where the committee sees through the team and says, you know what, Coach Norvell, your efforts this year don't go unnoticed. However, if it was a 5-team playoff, if it was a 6-team playoff, you'd be in. But unfortunately, this is the way it works. And I've kind of had to settle with that over the last couple of days. Like, I've been a Florida State advocate, obviously. We want to play them. But, it is what it is.
And that's kind of why I figured I was fairly confident that Georgia was going to get in as well, because all of a sudden you're looking at 2 one-loss teams and one just won back-to-back national championships. So it's like I thought they were going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And then you are looking at the best games, if you want to say that. If your top three are Michigan, Georgia,
But
Alabama.
if I can, to Georgia's credit, they lost to an Alabama team that 2 weeks prior had beaten Chattanooga 66-10,
The
that
Mocs.
had won the Iron Bowl by the same score, 27-24. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about Alabama's home wins: Middle Tennessee State, Ole Miss, where they sneaked by,
Yep.
Arkansas won by 3. You beat Tennessee, which is kind of like that game that you got to win. You beat LSU, that game you got to win. You're on the road. You play good road games, and I'm not taking anything away from Alabama, but Georgia, like you said, deserved a little bit more of a nod. But who
Yeah.
do you leave out? Texas, a conference champion, the Big 12 champion who kind of ran the table, lost to
Right.
Oklahoma in a shootout. So, and that's kind of
Once.
where it's you got to win your conference,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you also got to play your non-con. Like Michigan is going to play Texas next year. That's going to be a huge game, week 1. It's just going to matter now, next year, a year from now. So
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, but I was shocked that Georgia, the defending national championship, the 2-time, kind of got left off. But that just when Bama won, you just knew someone was going to get the raw deal, and it wasn't. And they
the
all have good
one,
arguments.
all of the teams, if they had a loss, came prior to the conference championship. And I
Right.
think that's
Right.
kind of like the determining factor is, you know, these
Yeah.
playoff games. Michigan's playoff game started against Ohio State. It started against
Yeah.
Penn State, like
Yep.
Michigan, these teams have to play for something starting by week, 10, 11, 12, and you're here and you're ready.
Yep.
And by the time it matters, that's when the real teams show up.
What are your thoughts? And you kind of referenced it because I wanted to get into this. What are your thoughts on the 12-team playoff? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Because it's kind of clear 4 is maybe not the right number, but I want to hear what you would think.
I think it's got to be a little adjusted
Yeah.
because, by the standards now, Liberty sneaks in at like 12.
Yeah.
That's not going to be a great game. Liberty versus Oregon or
Right.
whoever they end
Right.
up playing. So I think it's definitely got to be tailored to a specific standard. It can't be a committee based. It has to
Right.
be, the best 12 teams based on a certain criteria. No committee. If you meet the criteria, then there's a sublet that decides whoever has the most points, whoever has the keyest. There has to be some sort of. We have all these ratings and numbers
Right.
and SOS and POS and ROS. It's like, can't we just figure out something that everybody can get along? Why are
Yeah.
we doing inches and millimeters? It's like,
Yeah.
let's just figure it out. That way the fans who care and who are
Yeah.
causing a riot about all of this stuff, because it's not the commentators on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith doesn't give a shit other than what Michigan's doing.
Right. Right. Right.
These guys just care about what we're doing,
Right.
the fans. And so how do we respond? We say, hey, give us a baseline that we can judge all of our teams by. That way Florida State doesn't get left out next time.
And my thing was just the number. I think you kind of pointed it out. I think 12 is just too much. And I know they want to go back because it's more games, it's more money. That's what it's always going to come down to. But yeah, Liberty, great program. There's a way different level. Like when I saw the potential bracket, I was like, well, that's not exciting me. So I thought the sweet spot is maybe if you honestly think 6, but I think the 6 to 8 range would have been my ceiling with teams that you let in because this year 6 would have been like, wow, this is going to be an amazing college playoff. Like 1 and 2 seed get buys, then 3 through 6 play each other, and I
And then it
mean you're
allows the teams a week to
yep
prepare for the big game too. You're
right
you're not just losing 3 weeks of
right
December where you're
yeah
craving football, where you have your juices pumping for three
yeah
weeks and then
yeah
it's over. And then you're just stuck with like the NBA in-season tournament.
yeah. I mean I know it's tough. It was when we were growing up, it was 2 teams, and that was terrible. Then we got to 4, like this is great.
But
So
even
again,
then,
my thought
at
process,
two, you're like,
yeah,
these are the 2 best teams
right,
based
right,
on a certain criteria.
right. I mean, I just thought you go to 6. I think that solves most of your problems. If not, maybe eventually you go to 8, and that's the ceiling. Because determine, if you can't prove to the country that you're a top 8 team, then you're not the number 1 team. Like there's got to be some
Well,
sort of cutoff there.
how many people can they vote into the Heisman ceremony?
I'm not sure. It's usually what they usually bring three. I know some years they can bring two, but four is probably the max. If I'm,
Have there ever
they
been
usually
five or
don't bring.
six?
I don't know. That's a great question. I
Is
don't
there
ever.
a number there? Like, does the NCAA ever set a number other than how
Yeah.
much money a student athlete can make?
Yeah. No, it's true. And speaking of the money, I think I sent it to you today that, and you got to wonder what this had to be part of their factoring in, but ESPN is projected to save $150 million because Bama's in over Florida State. So it all leads back to the money.
Well, my final point on this too, I think Kirk Herbstreit, about 10, 15 minutes, he was on a TV show before the announcement was made on Sunday. And if you look closely, there's a photo that you can screenshot. He's got four helmets behind him, and it's the four college football playoff teams in order: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. And it's like 10, 15 minutes before the show comes out.
He
So
knew.
for everyone who sits there and thinks that all of this isn't orchestrated to our pleasure, so that way we can sit here and talk about it on podcast for
Right.
3.5 weeks until it happens, we're crazy because they know what we want. And if even if we say we want a gold standard that we can measure it by, they're gonna say, yeah, well, we know what you want. We're gonna give you the drama. We're gonna give you the juice.
Yeah. And I mean, Herbie's the man, but that's like the Chicago Blackhawks getting Connor Bedard. That whole pick seemed to get leaked. There's a little
Oh,
conspiracy
and Victor
there.
Wembanyama and going
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
Spurs, which I don't think it would have helped the Pistons much. They both have a combined 5 wins, but
Patrick Ewing in
um,
the Knicks. There's always
no,
LeBron ending up in Cleveland. I
no.
mean,
My bigger conspiracy is this: you have the number one team in the country, and you have a player who is a skill position player, a running back, Blake Corum. He's broken two school records this year. He leads the league, the NCAA, the entire country in touchdowns. How do you not offer this man a Heisman vote
yeah.
over Subaru Harrison, the
Yep.
guy who has had a such subpar year compared to what we look at with compared to a D.D. Westbrook or
Right.
like
Right.
a Devonte Smith, a D Smith? Like, you're honestly going to sit there and say Marvin Harrison deserves a shot at the Heisman over the number one team in the country's best rusher, the best rusher in the country, school record holder. He just broke both records, single season and career. I mean, Blake Corum deserves a nod at the Heisman.
And you kind of get the head to head if you want to have any tiebreaker. Michigan obviously beat Ohio State. I think everyone's talked so highly about the player that Marvin Harrison Jr. is, and I think he is a great player. I didn't notice him do, and I think it's more of a credit to Michigan. But in that Michigan Ohio State game, he didn't dominate like I thought he would. And not that he's not capable and he won't go on to do that things, but you kind of look for players to go off in those situations. And yeah, your guy kind of got snubbed a little there. I want to and if you want to make another point, feel free, but I want to get your quick thoughts, or it doesn't have to be quick, on the matchup that is Michigan and Alabama, because that is a tough matchup. I do like, obviously a lot of people are going to pick Bama, and you can see why, but I don't know. Michigan, with everything going on this year, it's I mean, they're the real deal no matter what people try and throw in their way.
Yeah, I agree. They are the real deal. And to make one final point on Blake Corum, he scored in every game this season,
Not
um,
bad.
which is, I think, another record. I don't know another player who scored in every game, but yeah. And just 24, I could count them up. But Michigan has played 6 games this year without their head coach. It's all documented, verified, Connor Stallions, the whole thing, right? My favorite part about all of it, and I think you'll appreciate this, was our boy Dave Portnoy when he came to the home state of Michigan. He did a couple pizza reviews. I think he did three. He did three around the local area, a couple of which I know, great places.
There you go.
But Connor Stallions made an appearance behind Dave in each of the videos, all three videos.
I got to watch it.
I love it. I love the fact, the confidence in Michigan and the confidence in knowing that whatever has gone on this year is not a factor for us winning the national
Right.
championship. And so ultimately, Alabama, like you said, a great matchup. I have people chirping at me already. Oh, you guys are afraid. Did you see the video of them when they found out? Dude, they were up till 5 a.m. partying. Like, they were up there at 9 a.m. Of course, they wanted Florida State, and they were a little grumpy. I think personally, it's a 1 point favorite right now, 1.5 point favorite. It could go either way, right? And I've
Right.
seen Michigan falter. I've seen them fall last year. I think history doesn't repeat itself this quickly. I think Michigan played 6 games without their head coach. They know how to battle adversity. So imagine when you have your leader there, your guy who is helping you all week, and you can look at it. I've seen JJ and him on like the sky cams, like even
Right.
last week in Iowa. You can see the connection, and you
Right.
can see just like what he brings to the team and what he brings to the sideline. And then it allows Sharon Moore, who's obviously handled himself like very professionally, very well, won 3 games as the acting head coach. It allows him to do his job. And
Yeah.
we all know what it's like when, you can finally do your job. Um,
Yeah.
it feels good. It feels good to kind of let loose and run away with the game plan. And who knows, man? Alabama, we might pull some Alabama on Alabama.
Yeah.
Is what I'm expecting. I think that personally that they're going to be so worried about the run game. We have 3 receivers. We have Roman Wilson. We have Cornelius Johnson. We have Colson Loveland. I mean, we have guys all over the place. We have Samaj Morgan, who's stepping up big time. I mean, Blake Donovan sitting out there in the slot. We have the Alabama weaponry that beats people,
Right.
and it's crazy because we also have the quarterback. We have JJ, who's a now I've seen JJ make some pretty dumb plays lately. I've seen him pull some Zach Wilsons running backwards and throwing balls away that are pretty close, but um, I think that's also what 3 weeks gets you is a lot of preparation. Last year JJ threw 2 pick sixes, and it kind of just hit us from the start. A
Right.
fumble on the 1 yard line on the first possession, a couple pick sixes, and you're done. You're out of the playoff game. So we have to be aggressive this first round of playoffs. We have to come out hitting, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I think it's yeah, it's gonna be a fantastic game. Neither one winning would surprise me. If Bama wins, that should never surprise anyone. My guts tell me it's Michigan. They're gonna take care of business. I think Texas is gonna take care of Washington. So I think that's gonna be your preview. Maybe we'll have to get back on, if and discuss those matchups once they play out. And maybe we're looking at a Michigan national championship game. We can get you back on there. But before, we won't go too
Which
long.
hold on though, what does a Washington loss?
Yeah.
And this is just a topic. Does a Washington loss almost guarantee a Bo Nix Heisman? Because Bo Nix has had a significantly better year than Michael Penix. And
Yeah.
that's where all of this discussion is going to get really fun is
Right.
if
Right.
Washington does lose, then we have the Heisman coming up, and then how does that all play out too? Because I really think Jaden Daniels is a shoe-in. I think he's going to win it for sure. But you have this
He should.
head-to-head battle between the Pac-12 guys that could play out if Penix shows up in 2 playoff
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, they get like you said, that's a great point. He gets that extra game. I'm with you. I think Jaden Daniels, he should absolutely be the winner. I mean, his numbers, his performance, I think he should be the guy. But yeah, having that extra game, you never know how people are gonna be swayed. But college football is the ultimate pageantry.
Yep.
We'll shift gears real quick to NFL because you got a team that's worth rooting for once. The world is upside down. All right. The Patriots are hot garbage, and the Lions are one of the top teams in the league. The Patriots, I'm just gonna keep it real brief with them. I'm very conflicted when I watch them now because I don't want them to go 4-1 or whatever in the last 5 games and be this bad and end up with like the ninth pick. But so if I like, we play the Broncos in a couple weeks. Broncos can beat us. Chargers beat us. The other, like that's fine. I'd rather mess up, a Chiefs game or beat the Jets because we haven't lost to them since 2015. Like a couple more wins, but don't mess around where you're picking too high. You're picking too low. We're this bad. We need a top 5 pick. So that's what I'm hoping for the Patriots. But you got better things to talk about with the Lions.
Well, I just looked at the records, and you're right. It is the world is upside down. 2 wins for the Patriots, 8 wins for the Lions, 9 wins for the Lions right now. Um, really close game this past week against the Saints. It's tough because this year I was very skeptical. I said, let's get through week 1. And of course, we upset the Chiefs. I said, all right, guys, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got a home game against Seattle. And of course, we're going to a shootout, overtime. We lose. It's a little upsetting. but it's a good win. And then we go on a heater, 5 in a row. We lose to potentially the AFC champion Baltimore Ravens, go on another 3-game heater. And this is where I feel my conflict, because on Thanksgiving, the day of all days for Lions fans, we go out and we just absolutely crap the bed against the Packers. The worthless Packers, who then just end up beating Green Bay or beating Kansas City,
Right.
at home this weekend. So maybe they're not worthless. Maybe they're kind of kicking up into gear, and maybe there's someone we have to worry about coming up. Maybe in the playoffs. But we got the Vikings and we got the Bears, 2 divisional games, actually 3. We play the Vikings twice, and that could pose us some issues. Is if we have to go against maybe a healthy Josh Dobbs, or Justin Jefferson's finally back and he's going to cause us some damage, because the secondary for the Lions, we stopped the run pretty well. I think the defensive side is still just a little bit suspect. The offense, second in total offense behind the Miami Dolphins. I mean, clearly they're clear front runners. Fourth in passing and fourth in rushing, as well as, like I said, on the defensive side, we just signed Tyson. I think it's Alu from Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. So we're fortifying. Right. We've made some moves, but I mean, on the offensive side, I've seen Jamison Williams, an Alabama guy, right. Jahmyr Gibbs, an Alabama guy. Maybe Alabama gave up all their good guys to the Lions, and then they're just going to lose to Michigan. But Jared Goff, 3,500 yards this year almost. David Montgomery is 10 touchdowns, even with being out with an injury. Jahmyr Gibbs is kicking it into gear. Amon-Ra St. Brown is sleeping, but he's always there for 7-8 catches. The best part about the Detroit Lions offense this year is wide receiver Sam Laporta, second-round draft pick, I think. One of the best assets to the Lions offense, one of Jared Goff's favorite targets. I think this team, if we beat Minnesota twice, I don't care if we lose to Chicago again, if we beat Minnesota twice, that's going to be a great steamroll into the playoffs. We might not get the first round bye. The Eagles look so good. I mean, even with the loss to the 49ers, they might be a clear cut if Dallas has anything to say about it, but I think the first place seeds coming out of the East. So it's going to be, how can we position ourselves to that number 2 spot?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to be really competitive. It's just crazy. Like, it's just proof of how long the NFL season is now. They still got another 5 regular season games, and we're sitting here for the college football playoff. But it is what it is. And, again, I think we'll have to get you back on here and we'll talk some more. We'll see how things play out in a few weeks, college football wise. We'll have some more NFL, maybe some playoff pictures at that point. Justin Jefferson coming back is going to be very interesting again in those matchups with Detroit. But hey, man, it was great to kind of get back and catch up. And, the college football playoff is on everyone's mind. So we had to chat about it.
Of course, man. And of course, obviously our sentiments go out to the Seminoles. Yeah. That press conference between him and Kirby Smart, there was an image that I saw and it was just classic. You could tell the fury between both of them, but hey, next year, we're not going to have to worry about that. Next year, maybe the game between Michigan and Ohio State isn't going to mean as much as it ever has before. Right. The whole landscape of college football could be obliterated and started fresh. So we'll see how it all turns out.